guys that go through the things that they go through inside, they process that information and those feelings in a way that's unlike anything that the average Joe or Jane would understand. You live in a system of retribution every day of your life, and you're treated less than human. And then you're supposed to go home and be civilized and among the grander scheme of society and understanding the laws and abiding by them. Working out it kept me disciplined, kept me focused, kept me in tune with not only my body but my emotions, and it gave me an outlet where I didn't want to lash out on anyone or anything other than the weights.
Why is mental health care so hard to access in prisons? Imagine being in a place where help is supposed to be available but feels just out of reach. That's often what life is like for inmates needing mental health care. Many prisons house a large number of people with mental health conditions. These individuals often come from tough backgrounds and have complex needs. Even though the need is high, the resources to help them are usually limited. There are not enough mental health professionals, and funding for these services is often tight. This means fewer staff members are available to see inmates and provide proper care. The environment inside a prison also makes it harder to get help. Asking for mental health services can be a long and confusing process. Inmates might have to fill out forms or wait in line, which discourages many from seeking help. Prisons are built mainly for security, not health care. This focus can lead staff to see inmates as threats rather than people who need support. Sometimes staff attitudes are dismissive or stigmatizing, making inmates afraid to speak up about their mental health issues. They worry about being labeled or facing punishment if they admit they are struggling. Trust is another big barrier. Inmates often fear that sharing their mental health problems could lead to discrimination or worse treatment. They might worry that their disclosures will be used against them or that they will be seen as weak. Many inmates who are on psychiatric medications before prison stop receiving them once inside. This interruption can worsen their condition and make it even harder to get back on track. Systemic issues also play a role. Cost-cutting and rationing of healthcare services mean mental health care is often not a priority. Sometimes private companies contracted to run prison health care limit what they provide. This can lead to delays in screening inmates, insufficient treatment, and a lack of ongoing support. Certain groups, like Indigenous inmates, face extra hurdles. Discrimination and a lack of culturally appropriate care make it even harder for them to access the help they need. All these factors show how difficult it is to balance safety, budgets, and healthcare in prisons. Improving access requires better training for staff, more resources, and making mental health services easier to find and use. Some prisons are trying to do this by offering more information, integrating mental health care into daily routines, and encouraging inmates to seek help. But these efforts need ongoing support and funding to truly make a difference. Without it, many inmates will continue to face barriers to the mental health care they deserve.
Greetings and salutations. I'm Victor DeSordi, and welcome to my channel at 28 to Persevere. Thanks for watching. At the end of this video, smash that like button, subscribe if you haven't already, and share this video among the many others I have made available on my channel. Thanks to y'all for showing the utmost love and respect to me, for continuing to support this channel, and for all the comments that I've received. Thank you, and just keep them coming. Let's keep this rolling. Today's video, I want to talk about mental health awareness inside the prison system and why should anybody care. Well, the reality is guys inside that suffer the ailments that they suffer and the physical, the mental, and the spiritual anguish that men go through has a reverberating effect far beyond the wall. Guys that go through the things that they go through inside, they process that information and those feelings in a way that's unlike anything that the average Joe or Jane would understand. Not to downplay or to denigrate anyone else's suffering, but the reality is inside the walls, that type of suffering goes underreported or not acknowledged at all. There's a lot of machismo in prison, so guys don't want to show any sense of vulnerability or weaknesses. So the anguish that they feel, they keep it inside, they harbor it, and a lot of times it gets filtered in a way that's self-destructive or destructive to others, uh, mentally, emotionally, and physically, and spiritually. So being made aware of that and the type of torture that guys go through inside the prison system, I think it heeds most people should heed it. I mean, obviously, I don't expect the average Joe or Jane to go out of their way to take the time and to process this type of information that I'm giving them and to read up on it and do their own research. But they should. They should heed it as a warning, and they should understand that the vast majority of these men that are going through things that they're going through inside, they're going to be released. And when that time comes, a lot of guys go home very bitter and broken by the torture that they went through because you live in a system of retribution every day of your life, and you're treated less than human, and then you're supposed to go home and be civilized and among the grander scheme of society and understanding the laws and abiding by them accordingly. A lot of men can't even function in that fashion anymore. So the recidivism rate is so high, which is understandably so now. At times you can literally sit back and say, okay, well, that's why the guy did what he did. Understanding the process, understanding somebody's histories, understanding their actions, moving forward. So it's something that should be considered, should be heeded, and people should take the time to independently research the information on this topic because mental health awareness is real, and the lack of care that men receive inside is real. I saw firsthand. I mean, I spoke briefly on the topic through my previous job that I had as custodial maintenance in the Auburn Correctional Facility, where I spent 14 years as a custodial maintenance engineer. And that particular job, I was literally instructed on how to deal with men with mental illness because a lot of the men that were put there were from the level one mental health units. So I had to understand and how they moved and some of their I was privy to some of their ailments, and it's information that I did process and I did understand to a large extent because I wanted to try to help these guys out. I just felt it take it upon myself to better understand my environment, which is imperative to my safety and sanity, was to better understand the men around me, regardless of who they were and what they were in for in particular. But during the job, I got to know a lot of these guys, and I saw firsthand, how vulnerable they were, and how some of these men suffered some severe, real handicaps that they dealt with because of their mental health issues. And then there was other men that you wouldn't classify as mentally ill per se, but they suffered through the torture of the prison system. I'm sure that I have elements like PTSD, and I'm pretty sure of that from things I went through, and I don't discredit that reality. I'm pretty sure I was never probably diagnosed or anything like that, but just from my own personal experiences, from the things I've seen and or witnessed to, and the things I single-handedly were a part of. So it's something to consider because the vast majority of the men inside do come home, and the ramifications of that, like I stated previously, is widespread. And most people should care. They should take the time to do the research. They should take the time to study this topic. Because mental health awareness is something that when a person doesn't get the proper care or consideration based on what they're going through, that person then processes that information in a way that the average Joe or Jane can never truly understand inside the wall, because when you're constantly beaten down and stomped down to the earth in a fashion that is shown that no sense of compassion or empathy whatsoever, you become apathetic, and that form of apathy is very dangerous, and very dark. And then your ability to try to associate yourself with the better nature of others becomes non-existent. And not to say that everybody inside is mentally ill or anything of that sort. That's for sure. I'm not even remotely stating that, but it is rampant, and especially in the prisons that I was in. And I believe that mental health awareness is something that should be talked about, should be a daily topic within the grander scheme of society as far as the administration of the prison system is concerned. Department of Corrections, especially in New York State. I mean, it's completely turning a blind eye to this reality. The epidemic of suicides is off the charts. It is, the violence is incredible, as far as things popping off for the simplest things, and that's all frustration. That's all. based on the punishment, the retribution, the anger, the spite, the hatred. Hatred in particular is so strong in prison, and it's just fueled by your environment. You become disassociated with the commonalities of humanity, the sensibilities that keep you on the straight and narrow become foreign. You're completely uh, out of touch and alien to those types of sensibilities that keep you calm, cool, and collected. You could easily fall prey to that inside because of the constant barrage of negativity. And the negative forces of chaos inside the prison system is real. It infects the brain, infects the mind, distorts the spirit. Your ability to comprehend right from wrong sometimes is skewered. You don't even care at times about doing the right thing and the wrong thing. You're just going to do the only thing you feel that you need to do, whatever that entails you to do to survive. And, this is all anguish, all suffering, and the pain that you're going through day in and day out, the constant toil of that life. It's a torturous existence. It's a form of living that most people could never truly comprehend. And I get it. Most people probably shaking their head saying, guys inside, screw them. They committed crimes. They're no victims. And you're entitled to feel that way. And I'm not trying to convince anyone otherwise. But all I'm saying is, you know, um, I look at myself as a law-abiding citizen. I did my time. I'm home now. I'm going to remain home and free for the rest of my life, and I'm going to abide by the laws. But I'm really conscious and aware of my environment and those in it, and I'm cautious towards what the next person is or isn't going to do from what I saw inside the prison system. And a lot of guys inside react at the drop of a hat and violently if they feel any type of threat, or they don't have to feel a threat. They just that's the way it is inside the joint, which is most huge. It's daily grind, way of life that people move and bob and weave in such a fashion where they have to stick out their chest and rah rah rah, ma ma ma, I'm the man. But it's the reality is also that people inside are going to be out one day, and people need to be made aware of what that entails as far as what type of treatment did they receive inside for that anguish, for that torture, for that suffering that they went through. And I can basically tell you that the vast majority didn't receive any. Nor did they want to. I mean, I wouldn't have reached out to anyone if they reached out to me. I get it. It's just being conscious of who I was as a young kid, going through the things that I went through. I wasn't aware of how my behavior could affect me moving forward, as far as my mentally speaking and spiritually, until I was a little older and wiser and more grounded in my own reality, that I needed to take heed to my own actions for the betterment of myself and my family. A lot of guys might not have that. They might not have a family. They might have an outlet. I can't stress the importance of working out. I mean, how that was a salvation for me. I spoke on it in previous videos. I've spoken on it numerous times. But working out kept me disciplined, kept me focused, kept me in tune with not only my body but my emotions, and it gave me an outlet where I didn't want to lash out on anyone or anything other than the weights, and it built a sense of community. It helped me understand the social interactions around me from the fellows that I hit the iron with in the iron pile, and I can't stress the importance of that. Working out, what it teaches you, how important it is to understand that not only will you become better as far as stronger is concerned, but it also helps you stay away from the bullshit and the unnecessary negative forces of chaos that are rampant throughout the prison system. Once you're in the iron pile, you're working out, you're not thinking about, what's going on outside that area. You're dealing with the guys around you. You're all focused on hitting the iron, working out. You're not giving any power to the politics around you, or what this guy's doing or that guy's not doing, and who's at war with who. Is just in the zone, working out, staying away from all the nonsense, and that's vitally important. I've always talked about that a lot in my videos because working out was a gateway for me, a gateway from the pain. It allowed me to process what I was going through and to release it in such a fashion that was therapeutic. It was a way for me to purge all the negative forces within me, the chaos that was rampant in my head, through the frustrations and the depression and the anger and just the overall turmoil running rampant inside me. I spoke about the maelstrom inside, the maelstrom of madness that you went through, the noise and the constant bickering and the constant violence all around you. It takes a mental toll on a person. So you got to find these outlets. You got to find these means to an end. And a lot of times, um, availability of mental health inside the joints is minimal. And the ones that do reach out and they get minimal care. Perhaps a lot of guys just get doped up on tons of psychotropic drugs, but they're not really attacking the root of the problem. And the root cause of that problem most of the time is the prison system itself and what it does to guys. I've stated before about guys I know that went inside and for all intents and purposes they were civilized men under the circumstances. And then through time and the process of dehumanization that they went through and retribution, they transformed, metamorphosed into something that was really unrecognizable. Even to somebody like myself, who was basic stranger to them in the beginning, but I can't imagine how their family felt. I knew how my family personally felt when I was in my late teens, when I went to prison in my early 20s and 30s, and how they saw me change. Thank the gods I was married to my wife and my children, and they kept me grounded, and they basically saved me in that sense. But prior to that, though, I was transforming into this angry, bitter man, being consumed by the environment around me and not even knowing it. And so you have to stay conscious. You have to stay aware of the fact that what prison does to you. And a lot of the people outside may or may not have interest in this topic, but I think it behooves you to do some research on it. And because your community is at risk, I mean, the reality is people need to be made aware of the vast majority of the men that are being released from incarceration and the baggage that they carry because of the pain and suffering that they go through and how that reverberates far beyond the wall.
Do prisoners gain skills from exercise? Have you ever wondered how exercise impacts daily life inside correctional facilities? It turns out that prisoners do gain skills from exercise, both physically and mentally. Exercise is a regular part of prison routines, and many inmates dedicate time each day to working out. This practice is not just about staying fit. It also plays a significant role in mental well-being and personal growth. In prisons, physical exercise often includes running, weightlifting, and using cardio equipment like treadmills and rowing machines. These activities help inmates build strength, endurance, and overall fitness. Over time, regular exercise can improve coordination, flexibility, and body awareness, which are essential skills for daily activities. But the benefits of exercise go beyond just physical improvements. Working out helps inmates manage stress, anxiety, and depression. Exercise reduces harmful stress hormones and increases endorphins, which can boost mood. Additionally, inmates learn discipline, patience, and goal setting as they follow structured routines and work toward personal fitness targets. Behavioral changes are another positive outcome of regular exercise. Many inmates report feeling less angry and hostile after they start working out. This can lead to better social interactions and a more positive environment inside the facility. Exercise can also help inmates form healthy habits, which may reduce the risk of returning to negative behaviors after they are released. Practical applications of exercise in prison life include using it as a coping method for dealing with the challenges of incarceration. It provides a constructive way to pass the time, releases tension, and connect with others positively. Access to exercise equipment and outdoor recreation areas is crucial, as it allows inmates to focus on self-improvement and mental health. From the perspective of correctional facilities, exercise is viewed as a tool for rehabilitation and maintaining order. Facilities that offer exercise opportunities often see improvements in inmate behavior and mental health, creating a safer environment for both inmates and staff. Exercise is not just about physical fitness. It is a way for prisoners to develop skills that help them cope with incarceration and prepare for life after releases.
So basically, hit me up with a comment. Share your thoughts because I'm really curious to hear what everybody has to say on this topic. And until next time, go with the gods and persevere.